Greetings, friends, and welcome to the Gospel Underground. This is episode 13, Booze, Parades, Pinching, and Wearing Some Green. Yes, we're talking about St. Patrick's Day today. We're broadcasting live for us, from the Bonhoeffer House Global Headquarters in Radford, Virginia. We're in Jesse's headquarters today, and I drove through a blizzard, the blizzard of Blacksburg, across a mountain, and it was sun shining in Radford.
It's beautiful here.
I don't know if that's prophetic, but who knows?
It's always sunny in Radford. And welcome to the Bonhoeffer House Global Headquarters. It's important that you remember that we're global.
You're global.
We're global. We have someone in Canada.
You're in Canada.
Shout out to Craig.
Weren't you talking to Craig?
I was talking to Craig this morning. That's right. Yeah, he's up in Canmore outside of Calgary and planting a church up there. And so he and his wife Zoe took us global. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
And I walked in and they were talking about whether when weed is legal you can smoke it or not as a Christian. We're not going to talk about that today.
Another episode.
Maybe a future episode of why we should not smoke the doobies. But today we will be going in on St. Patrick. Of course, St. Patrick, is called a saint because of its relationship to a Roman Catholic holiday, but certainly it has evolved into something else, cultural as well as still maybe religious significant for some. And then certainly our thesis here today will be that there's something for us, even as historically Protestant people, to learn from this Irish person. Now, Jesse and I are both kind of from Irish heritage. We'll share that a little bit in the morning. But our segment today that we're going to start off with is our RUTs and BUTs segment. Ridiculous things under the sun and beautiful things under the sun. We're going to be a little lopsided today and have a little more beauty.
More butts.
More butts than ridiculous ruts. But I did want to start out with an article that I came across that I do think is ridiculous. It was on Inc.com, I guess, which is a business kind of website, and we'll put this in the show notes for you. But basically, the article is somewhat titled, "So You're Smart But Not Rich. Eye-Opening New Scientific Study Tells You Why." And basically what this article says is that, hey, we're all good enough and all smart enough, but we're all not rich enough. Why are some people rich and some aren't? And it basically came down to, in their opinion, luck. Now, this kind of set me off in wanting to tear my hair out because
I always knew I was unlucky.
Yeah, you're unlucky. We're both unlucky.
I know I'm brilliant.
Yeah.
And not rich.
The circumstances of life where the odds were not ever in your favor.
Yeah, it's not fair.
Well, the article, I'm not going to get into a deep analysis of that article, but I am going to get into the concept that it brought up in my mind about this concept of luck anyway. Because in my opinion, Jesse, I don't know what you'll think about this, I don't think luck does anything. In fact, when we say we're lucky, I think we could say that we're just ignorant of actual causes. We don't know why this happened, but it somehow feels better than bad or fortuitous, and so we say, oh, I'm so lucky. But it doesn't say anything about why this or that actually happened. And so for all of you out there, if you want me to rip my hair and smash my head into a wall, just start attributing causative power to luck. Now, I don't think you should get weird.
You're like a grumpy old man.
I am a curmudgeon about this thing.
Get off my lawn with your luck.
I tell my kids, like, hey, we were lucky. And I'm like, no, you weren't lucky. Something happened, You can't describe it, and you like it, so you say that's lucky. If you say you're unlucky, something just happened and you don't like it. And so I think we can get a little bit more descriptive about the world and certainly the way we interact.
But here's the thing. I agree with you, but I still say lucky.
I do too. Good luck.
Okay.
Take luck. Good care.
Care for the luck.
Yeah, take your luck. So keep your luck, keep your chance. I will take real causes. Now, sometimes we don't know them, though, right? Only God does. But
we call that providence, right?
Yeah.
Good providence.
I've seen people say that, and that's just weird.
It's weird.
Ingrown Christian weirdo stuff. Hey, top providence to you. Come on, stop being weird. Nobody understands you. All right, moving on to beautiful things. Jesse, you want to jump up? They're both related to sports.
Yeah. Yeah, so my alma mater, Radford University, we won our first NCAA tournament basketball game last night, and it was beautiful. You know how fun it is to watch your little tiny school that everyone calls Radcliffe or Radnor or Bradford.
Highlander 2, the quickening or something like that.
We won a game in the NCAA. Now, it was a play-in game against another 16 seed, but we looked good. We were well coached.
Long Island or something?
It was Long Island University in Brooklyn.
Yeah, so both teams are having their like decade team game of the decade for
That's
them.
right. So this was our third time in the tournament. We were in 09 and I think it was 97 before then. Both times we were destroyed.
Right.
This time we came out, we played well, and we had a good run. We won our tournament, our Big South tournament on a buzzer beater,
Wow.
3-pointer against Liberty, the Christians.
Yeah.
We beat the Christians.
Flame, you beat the Flame.
And we're running this. It's just a fun little run here in the tournament. Now we've got Villanova.
Hey, you beat them.
Well, if we beat,
If you beat them,
they might be the best team in the tournament.
yeah.
Especially University of Virginia is the number one team, but one of their key players is out for the tournament now with a broken wrist.
Oh wow, UVA.
UVA, that's
Wow.
right. So Hunter off the bench broke his wrist, so he's out. So Villanova might be the top team. We've got him, and who knows? Who knows?
I hear if you beat them, who you might have in the next round. Is it the Hokies?
Oh, is that right?
I
don't
think
know.
we have to look at the brackets, but I think it might be the Hokies. Could be a new River Valley slam down battle showdown.
Yeah, they beat us this year, but who knows?
Amen. Well, hey, good luck to the Highlanders.
Beautiful.
All that. I think some of those guys can even dunk. Should be a good.
Oh yeah, there was a great one last night. You watched it was on Sports Center today.
Amen.
Ed Polite Jr. two-handed slam was sweet.
My son will see it. My son is into sports talk stuff now, and he'll see it and see people talk about it. He likes Stephen A. and he likes Colin Howard and the Herd, all those guys. Well, our second beautiful thing comes from the Olympics. This is something I ran across on Twitter, and I might even try to pull this audio off for us here in a second just by pumping this into our mic. But there was the first time ever one of these sports that nobody knows about or watches, where you do things that you throw stones or you rode around on skis and shoot guns. These are sports. But the United States of the America actually won a gold medal for the first time ever in cross-country skiing. Now, the thing about this that was fantastic was the call, the guy doing the commentary obviously was a big fan, probably a guy who participated in the sport and knew the history. And the call he gave on this was just, if you're a sports person, you got to go to, I'll put it in the show notes, NBCOlympics.com. They have the video. And it's just ecstatic. And so I'm going to try to get a little audio and see if we can play this.
I haven't heard this. I'm excited to hear it.
Looks like we're going to have an ad from Toyota. We're giving Toyota free advertising here.
We'll build them.
But it looks like it's... Okay, here we go.
So close for the U.S. on so many occasions. Now moving up on the inside. Into second place.
They're all completely gassed. They've given it everything on the global bucket. And Steven Nielsen leading Jesse Diggins into the final turn. Can Diggins answer?
As the roars rattle around the cross-country stadium in Pyeongchang, Sweden, the U.S., and Norway come into the line.
Here comes Diggins.
On the outside, Diggins making the play around Sweden. Jesse Diggins to the line.
Yes.
And it is Jesse Diggins delivering a landmark moment that will be etched in U.S. Olympic history.
If you can't lose your mind a bit.
I got
about-
goosebumps.
Yeah, it's like this guy loves cross-country skiing, and he thought he'd never see it. My son and I, for a week after that, were saying, they've gassed out on the Klabobakken. Because what on earth is a Klabobakken? I will not know, but congratulations to the USA in that cross-country moment. And
That was beautiful.
a beautiful thing under the sun, something very human, something very triumphal, like Radford. Well, the main topic we're looking at today is St. Patrick's Day. And so I just figured we'd share a little bit, Jesse, of some of our impressions, maybe growing up as kids or families or just in, American culture related to the day that's named after St. Patrick. What were your kind of impressions, stories as a young guy or even now?
So, yeah, I grew up also grew up in an Irish family. So I've got an Italian side and an Irish side, and both are very proud of their heritage. And so St. Patrick's Day for us was kind of this fun, like, reminder that the Irish are the best. It was, I think you'll reference this later, but there's the book, How the Irish Saved Civilization.
Yes.
Well, before that book was ever written, we believed it, right? So St. Patrick's Day was an excuse to celebrate and to, all things Irish. And, there was a lot of green beer, and there was just a lot of beer that didn't have to be green.
Green scrambled eggs.
Yeah,
My
green.
mom
We
would-
had green eggs. Yep. We would, hear the stories of Patrick driving the snakes out of Ireland, and what else? You got to wear green. Let's see. We'd also, and we did hear things about like Patrick teaching the Trinity through a clover.
Yeah, and we're really not sure that ever happened, but it's a cool story.
Oh,
right?
it happened.
It happened. Yeah, it happened.
So yeah, I mean, it was just a fun kind of celebration, fun reminder of how great it is to be Irish.
Amen. My mother, my family comes from Monaghan County, Ireland, and so my mother, who her side was not the Irish side of her family, it comes from my dad. She always wanted to make sure we knew we were Irish, and so one of the funniest things that I've ever experienced, and I'm not using hyperbole there, was I have an actual friend who's from Cork, Ireland, named Kevin, who's in New Jersey. And we had both my mom and Kevin. I think it was one of the holidays, maybe Christmas Eve or something. Big feast. You eating hams and turkeys kind of feast. And my mom was talking about how much she loved, Ireland and St. Patrick's Day and parades and all this stuff. And then Kevin, who's from Cork, Ireland, he just starts going off on my mom about how stupid American Irish traditions are. He uses the F word as kind of a verbal hitch, and so he starts talking about the effing gray stupid sweaters that people wear, and my mom is looking like shocked, like he's ruining her life. And then my mom, who she is being awesome, she just says, "Well, I don't care what you say, I like all that stuff." And so they had this little Irish war at the dinner table, but. There's a blog called Stuff White People Like. It used to be really popular. It's not as popular now, but this is a little quote from that. It says, on March 17th, however, the exact same... let me start a little earlier. And normally, if someone would wake up at 7 in the morning, take the day off work, and get drunk at a bar before 10 a.m., they would be called an alcoholic, and not the artistic, edgy way that white people are so fond of. On March 17th, however, the exact same activity is called celebrating St. Patrick's Day. This is a very special white holiday that recognizes St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, who helped to bring Catholicism to the Emerald Isle. His ascetic life, that means denial of self and indulgence, is celebrated every year by white people drinking large amounts of alcohol and Irish-themed alcohol and listening to the Dropkick Murphys. So anyway, there's a certain reality that St. Patrick himself is lost a bit in American culture today, where people... I even saw commercials this week for certain types of whiskey, and they're like, it's a holiday that's dedicated to drinking. And unfortunately, that's not the story of the one who's celebrated there. Now, the one thing that I do want to, in a commercial sense, I do want to advocate for before we move into some of St. Patrick's life, I want to advocate that Reese's would get their act together and make a Reese's peanut butter shamrock, because they got it for everything else. They got eggs,
That's right.
hearts, pumpkins.
You think they do? Maybe in Ireland?
I don't know. They need to. It's a gap in their product line. They need a SKU for Reese's peanut butter shamrocks.
Well, I'm sure they're listening.
Four-leaf clovers full of peanut butter. Because they're not listening. But hopefully my mom is. Hi, Mom. Well, St. Patrick. A few years ago, I did some thinking about him. I was reading some books. I get in these ruts, no pun intended, that are kind of where I get into it. Like right now, I'm reading books surrounding Dunkirk and the Battle of Britain because I saw the movie Dunkirk, so I've read like 3 books on it. And I got into this Irish kick where I was reading, you mentioned Thomas Cahill, how the Irish saved civilization, which is just true. And then I started reading Philip Freeman's St. Patrick of Ireland's biography, and certainly the blog Stuff White People Like. So I was learning a lot. So I decided, I'm going to systematize this and try to put together a little bit of something in my own kind of terrible writing style about St. Patrick. And so I do think there's a lot that we can learn from this person. And so I think the most ironic thing that a lot of people don't know is that Patrick himself was not properly Irish at all, right? He was born a Roman citizen in Britain, so he's a Briton guy who became Irish and definitively changed the Irish culture. But born in the 4th century, 300s AD, was son of a Christian nobleman and a deacon in the church named Calpurnius. Now, he was one of those guys that came from a family that had faith in Jesus and certainly was part of the church and would have been instructed in certain and educated in classical learning styles and such. But he himself was pretty clear about his own faith in his younger years, that he was an atheist in his youth. So he was a guy that actually lived in a time that was a little bit crazy. It was after, during and after and through the fall of the Roman Empire.
That's right. I find it. I think I grew up thinking Patrick was much more of a modern saint than, say, Saint Augustine.
Yeah.
But they're really contemporaries, right?
Yeah, very ancient.
Yeah, and in different places. But this is all happening around the same time, the fall of Rome, and
Yeah. And there was a lot of, just crazy stuff happening on the borders of what people would call in that day civilization and what they called barbarians. Certainly the Celtic people, I know, that's the proper pronunciation, not the Boston Celtics, but the Celtic people. Many times there would be raiders that would come in ships and carry people off and make slaves. And Rome was at the time couldn't really affect this or couldn't change this reality of this kind of slave raiding and taking and hoarding off. And so Patrick, who was a Roman citizen and a Briton, was actually taken as a slave to Ireland, right, by the Celts. And now they were harsh people. Now Celtic is an interesting thing because it's not like, hey, he's Swedish or something. The Celts were kind of a broad culture. They had certain aspects to society. So Celtic type peoples existed all throughout Europe. And they were an interesting people. They were very, kind of family oriented and clan oriented and patchwork of people in the island. And the interesting thing about them is that they were a very violent, warring people. And so many times the Romans would comment on the battle practices of these people. And this is just a quote describing them from Thomas Cahill's How the Irish Saved Civilization. He said, the Romans in their first encounters with these exposed insane warriors, many times they would fight like butt naked.
Yeah, they had like a warrior necklace on, and that's it.
And just going in, man, So picture these muscled up, crazy white guys run at you butt naked. So when they first encountered them, the Romans, who are disciplined military culture, were shocked and frightened. Not only were they naked, they were howling, seemingly possessed by demons. Their strength was outrageous. They could fight all night forever. They were urged on by certain types of music that really just freaked out the Roman people. In fact, they described it as a sensorium that was some sort of a multi-sensory event. That kind of reminded them of the terrors of hell. So it was this time that Patrick was taken as a slave and would live under a life just of servitude. He would have to live basically in a very meager kind of setting, and his role was particularly mundane.
Took care of sheep or something. Wasn't he sold to a like a local shaman or druid priest or something?
Yeah, druid priest. He said, hey, dude, you go out on the hill and you keep the sheep, right? You guard them from wolves. You have to bring them back to safety. And he was in slavery 6 years, right, in northwestern Ireland. Very cold climate. Basically would live in a meager kind of shed-like kind of existence where he would sleep. And so it was during this time that he recounted this. This is from Patrick's own confessions, which can be found online as well. He says, but after I reached Ireland, I used to pasture a flock each day, and I used to pray many times throughout the day. More and more did the love of God and my fear of him and faith increased, and my spirit was moved so that in a day I said, from one of the hundreds of prayers I would say in solitude, besides, I used to stay out in the forests and the mountains, and I would wake up before daylight to pray in the snow and the icy coldness in the rain. I used to feel neither ill nor slothfulness, because, as I now see, the Spirit of God was beginning to burn in me at that time. And so here's a guy who grew up and really didn't accept the faith of his fathers, but when he was isolated and was probably a terrible circumstance of any of our understanding, he began to talk with God, pray, and sense the presence of God working in him. And most people would say this was the time of his conversion, that he actually became a believer. Now, he recounts that he had a dream and he heard a voice speaking that said, hey, you will do well to fast. Soon you will depart for your home country. And so he believes that he was prompted by the Spirit of God to flee from his captivity and go back home. And so I'll spare you the details today, but he basically finds a ship and makes it back home to Britain. Now, the interesting thing is that when he's there, he's really wrestling with what he's to do to his life. He's now a Christian. He begins to study theology. He was a little young, so he couldn't become a priest yet. So he became a deacon. He learned to serve others at the time, and eventually he would become a priest and a bishop. And so his mission then became what he sensed, in an ironic twist of affairs, providentially, certainly not lucky. He sensed a call to go back to the people of Ireland, these berserker, crazy, pagan, druid kind of religious folks, and he wanted to go to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ to all who would listen to him. And so one of the things in his own heart, he forgave the people who took him as a slave, and his concern for them was just quite beautiful. This is again from his Confessions. He says, "But it is the women kept in slavery who suffer the most, who keeps their spirits up by menacing and terrorizing all that they must endure. The Lord gives grace to his many handmaidens, and though they are forbidden to do so, they follow him with backbone." So he also, his concern for women was certainly outstanding for that time in history. So you can learn a lot from Patrick and his methodology, but one of the things he did was that he embedded himself holistically in community. He didn't view mission to people, well, let me go teach theology, in kind of a way that was disconnected from the everyday life of these clan people. What he actually would do, and this is described well in the book, The Celtic Way of Evangelism by George Hunter. I think you have that book with us today. But he had a very incarnational view of how to engage with people. And so he would be on the ground with them in their communities and alongside of them in their everyday work. He would set up schools to help teach, and people began to convert in this culture.
Yeah, as a guy who's, I'm always thinking about training church planters. I was really fascinated with his church planting model of he when he went back, he brought a team, and that team would then live in the culture and begin to have relationships, and they spoke the common language, and then he would leave a couple people behind to plant the church, just to be priests to the people, and move on and do the same thing from tribe to tribe.
Yeah. It was really interesting. Living in Christian community amongst those who worshipped different gods was very much their practice. And I think in our society, in Western civilization today, we have a lot to learn of that. We're surrounded in every culture by people that worship other things, whether they be formalized religious deities that we think of in a traditional way of worshiping, or a world that worships power or money or ego and all the things, that our culture is drenched in. We live together in Christian community, and then speak the gospel to people who are living around us in different ways. The other thing that these Irish Christians, as they began to convert, they were very faithful to what we call the orthodox teachings of the Bible, the early creeds of the faith, but they lived out their faith very close to the life of the Celts. Like, for instance, a lot of his writings have a lot to do with nature, right? And to communicate to a people that literally worship nature and were very close to the land and the environment. The idea that God, the creator, the triune God, the one who made all this thing, would walk with them in creation, was something that they didn't. They mined the deep traditions of biblical faith and then applied it to people in a specific context that really made sense for the people and culture. Theology for them was practical, right? Whether or not he taught the Trinity using the shamrock or not.
It does accord with his style of teaching, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, and I think that's a way it survived their methodology of being very in nature, in natured even, we might say. Now, the interesting thing about the Irish at this time is that, as Rome fell, throughout the next century, and the chaos that ensued and all that would emerge, a lot that was handed down to, say, Western civilization from the Greeks and the Romans, classical learning. The interesting thing was that Irish monks actually kept this learning alive. And so one of the interesting things of history is that the turn of this barbarous people, the berserker running butt naked across the field to kill you, right, with his flutes and stuff playing in the background like you're in a techno multimedia death show, right? They many times would take the vanquished person that they defeat another tribe or whatever. They would cut their heads off.
Yeah.
And literally tie them around their waist and carry them as kind of trophies. And so the really interesting part of history, within a century or two, the Irish became a nation that had many monks, and you'll see this like in, say, even popular representations, maybe in cartoons or movies of monks, that they got something tied around their waist, and there's a little book hanging off of their waist. And so you really had a people that went from carrying the heads of their enemies to carrying Bibles and books and literature. And Cahill's thesis, which I think bears out fantastically, and it's very true, was that the Irish kept the classical learning from Europe alive while it went through kind of a chaotic situation, so that these great texts, both from the early church and certainly philosophical traditions of the West, were kept alive by the copying work of berserker Irish monks turned into priests, as it were.
I've been thinking about this week, St. Patrick and this whole kind of what happened there. And in light of Rod Dreher's book, right, The Benedict Option, where he's making the argument that Christians should, in a sense, withdrawal maybe embed in a really tight-knit kind of cloistered life within the culture, so that as the culture falls, like Rome, that there's a rebirth through the Benedictine sort of model. It doesn't settle well with me.
Yeah.
Man, the picture of the monasteries that Patrick and his followers established in Ireland is such a better model, I think.
Yes.
So even the physical spaces where they create this ordered but connected to the land and connected to the people, cultures, and then there, Hunter in his book The Celtic Way of Evangelism calls them boundary spaces, that they're the boundaries between the church and culture. There's a flow in and out. There's a sense in which we're saying, no, the community happens here. Come in. They gave pride of place to visitors. So if you were a guest, often the guest house was the best place in the spot. That people were working side by side. In fact, he makes the case that if you wanted to be alone, you had to leave the monastery. You didn't go in there to have your quiet, retreat. You went into the monastery to connect with people and work side by side, and they were transferring beautiful artwork, and they were copying rotting papyri, they were copying writing books and
books that would have been lost completely. And Jesse Jesse said Rod Dreher's The Benedict Option, and inside I'm going, oh no, what are we going to say? We have never discussed that.
We have not,
and I had no idea what you thought about it. And so I'm glad you did not offer it as the best option forward for Christians today, because
I think it's interesting. It's worth engaging
it's
with.
in the sense that, okay, let's pull aside, preserve our traditions, learn. The problem with it is, right, and I think you nail it when you're looking at the Celtic way, these Christians that were converted in Ireland, is that we're not called to cloister out from the world for the sake of just doing that to survive and keep our stuff.
Right.
We're to set up that cloister right in the world, or set up the church in the world for the sake of the world. My friend Doug Logan, he's written a book called On the Block. And so in his thesis, obviously he was working in the context.
He's up in Jersey?
Yeah, he was in inner city Camden at the time he wrote that book. But the church, as in Ireland, as on the Block, should be that place where people and culture pass in and out. I might even say, right, that we should exist on the borderlands between church and culture. The church
that has a good ring to it.
It kind of has a good ring to it. The church as a community is countercultural within the culture.
Yeah.
So it has to have that distinctiveness, saltiness, Jesus might teach us.
And the city on a hill is on the hill to draw people. People are wandering in the dark in Jesus's picture of the Sermon on the Mount, and they see the light of the city, and they're drawn to it. And this is where life happens.
Life, safety.
I
get a drink of water, right? It's like I'm tired. I'm out here in the
green
dark
beer.
woods. Yeah, some green beer. And some
once a year.
Green scrambled eggs. So yeah, the Celtic way, you set up this community within the community, not there to hurl rocks at the community or because you probably die, they'll come berserk on you or something, but to love those people in the world that are very far from God and worshiping everything but and doing heinous things. They eventually will see your light and give praise to your Father who is in heaven, as Jesus taught us in Matthew 5:16. So there's much more, right, with St. Patrick, and we're not.
You need to write the Patrick option. How do you say that?
Patrician option, yeah. Patricus.
It's just called Patrick.
Yeah.
Patrick's option.
One of the best things I think that happened for Patrick, not only becoming a believer, but his Roman name compared to his childhood name of Maewyn Sukit. I think
Patrick's gonna.
It's a little bit of an upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, this Saturday, March 17th, is St. Patrick's Day. And one of the things we have in our society that I believe is that we celebrate our holidays now. And many people, right, in our culture celebrate nothing on days named for substantially wonderful people. And so this Saturday, as you think of Patrick, think of the one who was found by God as a slave, was converted, and went back to the enslaver to love them in Jesus' name, and saw a community transformed by setting up countercultural communities of grace, gospel communities of grace within the darkest worlds we can imagine. And so that is applicable on the block. It is applicable in the academy. It is applicable in the suburbs. It is applicable anywhere on the earth. And I do think we have many models from church history that we can look at, people who lived faithfully in the midst of all manners of societies, political realms, and regimes, to faithfully proclaim the ultimate regime, Jesus Christ, kingdom of heaven, coming, King of kings, Lord of lords.
Amen. And you didn't mention this. You mentioned that you wrote something on Patrick, but you didn't mention that there you can go on powerofchange.org and find that. I'm sure Reid will put that in the notes. I assume it's good.
It's all right. It's all right.
I may read it to my kids on Saturday.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. That's an idea. We are the Gospel Underground. We are not the self-promoting podcast. In fact, we're trying to do things in such a way that we will forget to share our wares. It's free though, right?
It's free. Yeah, you can share free stuff.
I wrote it for a gospel community on mission. I wrote it for people in New Jersey in our church. A lot of Roman Catholics around that, St. Patrick's a given, and I was able to share that with folks, and it's there for you. If you go to powerchange.org, just search for it, or Patrick of Ireland, Reid Monaghan on Google. I should come up pretty high on the top there.
And settle this for me. Did Patrick really drive the snakes out of Ireland?
Well, Reid? In terms of paleontology, in terms of our understanding of the island, we've not found evidence of snakes in that area. So they were either long gone, way prior to him, or he didn't do it. Now, maybe that's another thing that's come down through its history to say, metaphorically, his gospel work drove out the devil and certainly the some of the evil practices of the Celtic religion.
That's right.
Certainly on the Green Isle. Now, green is his color today. I think it was blue way back in the day. It's another weird fact of history, but Ireland is green, and put some Reese cup dye in them green Reese shamrocks, and I will eat them. You got anything else for us, man? River dance? You want to river dance for us?
No, we'll do that after the show.
Celtic clogging. It is a fact of history that say certain parts in the United States that were influenced by Irish immigrants have a certain type of dancing that you might associate with mountain people or some clogging.
Oh yeah, you can go right in our neighborhood, right?
Right now, you could
head over
it.
to Floyd, Virginia, every Friday night for a little
clogging,
that's right.
Yeah, it's a descendant from the Irish jigs.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pop Irish culture, I guess, that is traveled in. But it is an interesting story of a people, and certainly their identity formed by the work of and all the community that followed St. Patrick. Now, we could go into, and we won't today, the history of the Irish people, but I will just say to all my Irish brethren, you do have a harsh history, man. You were put down and beat down. Frederick Douglass, who once said of the Irish that he really recognized them as a people. Sadly, when they came to America, black people and Irish people were on the lowest rungs of the economic and employment status, and sadly, some Irish people became very racist because of that, because kind of competing for scraps. My brothers, Irish brothers, it should not be. Well, Jesse, in the next few weeks, we'll be back here on the Underground. We have lots of things. I have an idea that I'd like to share with you. I have an idea. I'm going to share 2 titles, Woke, Too Woke, or Broke. That's one title for a podcast I'm thinking about. Or
Wow.
Woke, Too Woke, or Asleep. I kind of like the broke one, but the idea
The
of
broke one sounds better.
it kind of has a preacher sound to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to play this out with some of my brothers,
Huh.
see what they think. But I do want to discuss, particularly in our context, wokeness in relationship to race, and too wokeness, perhaps, or is that possible?
Or brokenness.
Or just asleep.
Sleepiness.
Yeah, broke. So that might
Good,
be coming up
good,
here in the
okay.
next few weeks. And then anything you guys want to? We did have a feedback note. Did you want to comment on that? We Jesse and I debated last
Oh,
time
Lord.
about whether the meet and greet time before church. In fact, this Sunday at church, we got there a couple minutes late, and I just looked to the right, and Jesse was standing next to me. I was like, I said, "Hey, man,
Did we
I
come late enough to miss the greeting time? Nope.
Nope, because
No, we waited for you, Reid.
It was unleashed literally a second after I said, "Hey,
We
did I miss
waited
it?"
for
Yeah.
you.
So I said hello
because I didn't want you to miss that opportunity to welcome your neighbor.
and I said hello to the guy in front of me.
That's
I don't know
right.
who he
Yeah.
is.
Who's your buddy? Who
Yeah.
was it?
Eric Brewhouse? Shout
Eric.
out Eric and
What's up, Eric?
He represented his wife's voice, Rachel, as well. They hate the greeting time too. They come a song late too to miss the awkward introvert meet and greet forced time. But Jesse wrote back and accused me of professionalizing.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to do it right here on the air. I'm going to take my argument back up. Okay.
I said you ought to have people that are good at talking to people do greeting at the church.
Yeah. So here's what I'm saying is I think that you run the risk. So Sunday morning, people come to church essentially to be entertained. Entertain me. Don't make me do anything.
Right. Do it good.
Do it good for me. I want to see a good sermon. I want I want the music to be
With the fog machine to come on at
fog
the proper
machines
time,
and laser
lasers.
beams.
Yeah.
They've got to, And so what you're doing, I think, when you relegate greeting people, hospitality to the special elite extroverts.
That's right.
Is you're removing the priesthood of all believers. You're saying, hey, a regular person, you're not very presentable.
Yeah.
You're kind of uncomfortable and awkward. I'm going to give you a pass on this, or frankly, I don't want you representing our church to people. Right. I want people to come and have a really good kind of experience in their first time, and I think it professionalizes things too much. 2 classes of people: the greeters and then the non-greeters. Now, listen, we have greeters, okay? So I'm all about having someone at the door saying, "Hey, welcome to our place, welcome to our home." Right. But in the same way that, like, if I'm hosting a party at my house, I'm going to be the one at the door welcoming people. I'm expecting that my other guests are going to stand up, shake hands, welcome the person in,
for sure.
so that it's not just I'm welcomed by this one person, but everyone here welcomes me.
I received that, and I agree, and I submit to that view. I really do think you don't want to make everything clean and tidy, and so it feels plastic and fake, for sure. But when we pick those greeters, hopefully it will be people who like to talk to people, who won't say awkward, crazy things to them, are somewhat mature in their faith, won't be debating about Donald Trump at the front door.
That's right.
Pro or con.
Know how to break off an intramural conversation. Right. So
they're not going to ignore the visitor
exactly
because they're talking about their kids with somebody they've known for 15 years.
And even knowing the right things to say, like not saying, "Hey, is this your first time here?"
Yeah.
I remember I got asked that like 6 years after I started going to this mega church back, in Northern Virginia. No, I'm. This is like my 400th time here.
Yeah, and you obviously don't love
me.
me.
Right, yeah. So I'm all for having good greeters.
Yeah, so we have come to peace on the meet and greet time. I will still show up a song late and hopefully miss it, and Jesse is right.
We'll just keep waiting for you.
The community should
I will say
greet
this,
one another.
as a result of that last podcast and our conversation at our church, Valley Bible Church, we're beginning to rethink not whether we do it, but how we do it. How can we help it to be the least uncomfortable as possible for both new people and introverts, maybe particularly for those 2 categories.
Yeah. Yeah, and for all those Valley Bible Church leaders who are listening to the Gospel Underground, I would just say maybe you can even say from up front, hey, if you're an introvert, if you don't like just talking to strangers, hey, you're okay, but just smile, say hello. We just want to make this place a warm family room for you to feel welcome.
That's right. One of the things that we've done in the past is we've really stressed meet a new person or someone you don't know. And what I'm starting to do now what I'm starting to do now is if you're introverted, you have a really hard time meeting new people, and you have this 1 minute of awkwardness where it's like your church leaders are saying, go meet someone new.
Yeah.
It's probably okay for you as an introvert to just talk to someone you already know and be happy and friendly, because you are creating an environment. It's not all up to you. And
Right.
so it may not be the best opportunity for you to be, missional in that 1 minute of uncomfortable time.
Sure.
So help create a sort of a hum of talking and happiness and smiles and welcoming and shaking hands, and that's okay.
You help create a good buzz in the room. And no, Craig, in Canada, that is not for you.
No
No
buzz.
good buzzes. All right, man. Well, thank you guys for listening in today. We want to say thank you, as always, to Sugar and the High Lows for allowing us to license the song. See it for yourself. For our theme song, The Gospel Underground is a joint production of Power of Change and the global headquarters, Bonhoeffer House. Send your comments. Thanks, Eric and Rachel. Feedback, questions you might have to us at info@gospelunderground.org. We are a dialogue taking place in the borderlands, maybe in Ireland, maybe on the block between the church and culture. We hope to see you out there. Peace.